Welcome to All Things Chiropractic.
Welcome to another episode of All Things Chiropractic. I'm Paul Andrews.
I'm Dr. Mark Davini, and I'm excited about this one.
I am too. But before we get to that, we want to say thank you to a surprising statistic. We have been trending in some overseas countries. I was shocked by this.
Oh.
So the United Kingdom, hello, how are you?
Hello.
And hello, meine Freunde aus Deutschland.
Oh,
Vielen Dank für Zuhören.
Bitte.
My 4 years of German can go into use. But yeah, Germany and the UK seem to be big fans of ours. It's growing and growing out there. I had no idea.
Well, a shout out to them in English.
Yeah, exactly. But I thought that was really cool.
That is cool.
That's fun.
You never know, right? Who would have picked?
And then I did a little German, and they'll stop listening now.
That's it. Yeah. We've just insulted them like crazy. I apologize if anything we said in German doesn't apply.
Hey, I had 4 years of it, so I'm all right. I'm a little rusty, but you know.
Mine was French, and don't ask me to say 4 words.
Je ne parle pas français.
Yeah, oui. That's all I know is oui. And it's usually because I got to go to the bathroom.
Is it? It's funny how if you don't use it, you really do lose it quickly.
It's true.
Oh, it's awful.
So true.
It's a bummer.
Yeah.
But anyway, hey, welcome. So today's episode,
Feel the burn.
we're talking about chiropractic and burnout. It is real.
Very real.
I think it's real. Like I would say it trends nationally no matter what, but this is All Things Chiropractic, so we're going to keep it to that. But boy, burnout is...
Actually, PubMed did an article on specifically chiropractic and burnout. It's amazing. And it just correlates beautifully with
they're
what
doing
we see.
it. There must be a trend there,
There must
unfortunately.
be a trend there. Absolutely. You know, we did another podcast on hormesis, which is that concept that if you have a stress that's under threshold, that it may actually be good for you. Well, we're talking about hormesis on steroids.
This is when it's not good.
This is when it's not good.
Yeah.
Your cortisol levels are off the chart.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So
there's a joke in my head, but I can't say it.
Somewhere in there, right? Yeah. So why do we have burnout?
Yeah.
I mean, you work in a chiropractic office. Why do you think we have burnout?
There are so many reasons to me. You know, I feel like in a world where technology keeps changing so quickly and it's supposed to make things easier, I just feel like we get less and less time as things develop. I don't know if that's just me, but maybe it's getting older.
Well, it's interesting because you did a podcast on claim form, 1500 claim form.
Yeah.
And you spent all the time on that explaining the responsibilities and legalities that we have on that. And I think back to my first claim form, which was just this little 5-line thing on a one-right system.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and we didn't have computers that did what these do now. And it's because they do. Because they can ask for the information, they ask for it. Where back then you couldn't ask for it because you'd never get it.
But to me, I'm getting this impression that all of this technology was supposed to make life easier. Now, there are a lot of conveniences with technology, but I can't say to myself that I feel like I have more time.
No. And it's exactly, you know, when we talk about what is burnout, it's really when the body and mind can no longer keep up with what your tasks are. And think about all the things you do that are just tasks. They don't require a lot of thought. They're just things you have to do on a regular routine basis. That has skyrocketed in my mind as far as the things that
can we
I have
talk
to
about this multi-step authentication when you try to log into a website now?
Yeah, there you go. It's a task.
Never mind passwords were enough. Like, they're so sick of passwords. But then having to do this text message or email thing, and it's like, okay, well, it's going to be an email, so let me log into my email first. Well, to log into my email, I got to make sure I get in there, and then forget it.
Oh, now it's face rec, but then you do the face rec, and then that just triggers the ability to send you the secondary authorization, and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not simple anymore. I have my phone and I can make my phone do face rec just to open the app. But then once I'm in the app, I have to do face rec again just to open that particular app. So it's safer, but I have to do it twice.
More steps.
It's more steps.
I can tell you this real example of, to me, it is task shifting. So gone are the days, for the most part, where you send out an electronic claim. Electronic claims have been really revolutionary. They're wonderful. You can just pump out a lot of data. But now the carriers, instead of sending you a check with the EOBs attached to it, you get it in the mail, right? So now they're all only available online. So instead of them coming to you and then you just like photocopy them or whatever, now I have a billing staff person whose most of her week is just designated to going into each provider's insurance carrier portal and pulling remittance advices and payments. Some you can get from the clearinghouse, so there's a little bit of centralization, but not a lot. They've shifted the burden now because they wanted to save money on paper and postage and checks and all that stuff. Fine, save a tree. Don't hear that anymore. But what happened is it shifted a huge amount of labor to the provider office.
And it fits right into one of the definitions of burnout, where the rewards no longer equal the effort.
Well, the payments now from the carriers aren't rewards.
No, they're not. Yeah, far from it. But I mean, just simply being able to get a piece of information that normally came in a different way a lot easier. So all that energy just to do something that was done easier before. So here we are, filling our days up with this stuff, let alone involving other people's lives when we're on social media for so many hours a day.
And it's draining and aggravating when it works. When it doesn't work, like I think back to the episode we did on Change Healthcare, and when it didn't work for months.
For months. Yeah. So talk about stress.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the amount, and part of that was now when they shifted the burden on the provider to go get verification or payment information through the portals, when they shifted that, they couldn't handle when the call volume went up because those weren't working, right?
Right.
I think they intentionally keep the call centers low anyway, just to force you online, and your call is important to us.
That's what I mean. You wonder how much of this is that you're just a victim of people controlling things that you have no control of. And you have to use it. You have to be part of it. And it's all contributing now. And it becomes one of those things that they actually have what's called a burnout syndrome. It's actually real. And they say it comes from being emotionally exhausted, a general depersonalization of your life, meaning we spend half our time on computers and things like that. And because of it, you have a reduced personal accomplishment. So now all of a sudden you're going through all this work. You're not communicating with people on a regular basis or socializing. And all of that means I'm less of a person because of it, or I have less accomplishment because of it. We mentioned this many times. I'm a public member of the Opticianry Board in Massachusetts, and it was more than 2 years of being a member of that board before I got motivated to just say, can we go to lunch and meet each other? Literally. We never met each other.
Did you get wide eyes and they were shocked?
Yeah. We all, we do the Zoom or the team or all those other things. But 2 years on a regulatory board, sometimes deciding people's fate, and we never actually met each other in person.
You know, it's funny you say that because I've been on my massage therapy board for a long time now. And our executive director, who I see on Teams or Zoom or whatever all the time, talked for years. And I had to go into Boston for the meeting. Now, it was still a remote meeting, but I had to be in Boston because I had to catch a flight as soon as the meeting was over. And so she's like, oh, I'll meet you in the lobby. And the minute I saw her, she goes, do you realize this is the first time we've ever met in person?
In person?
This is years. Years.
Crazy, huh?
I was like, really? Because I felt like I met her. But it was just,
Well, talk about depersonalization.
Yeah.
The person that you're working with is no different than the TV show you watch at night or something, because it's just someone on a screen. It's crazy.
But I know them on TV. They're real.
They're real. I know. So what are the signs of burnout?
When I looked at some of these, I said, "Are you just following me every day? Because this seems like me."
I said, I get down below. It's funny. I said the same thing. See Mark.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So certainly feeling tired all the time, and I think a lot of us get this general.
What'd you say?
Yeah, I'm boring you apparently. But this general malaise, I think, is just it's over the population. I think it's not just chiropractic for sure, but there is,
Oh, and they link to each other. So certainly, if you're feeling tired all the time, you don't have any motivation.
Especially,
and damn it, you get irritable.
Well, I was going to say, right? If you want something done, give it to a busy person, right?
Right. Exactly.
But it's kind of like me in exercise. The less exercise I do, the less I want to do, the more I feel bad about myself because I'm feeling tired and fat and I don't want to get up and I don't want to do anything. Yeah. But if I would just get up and do it, I would start feeling better.
Yeah. And then you would be handling the reduced personal accomplishment characteristic, right? Which means you increase your productivity instead of having decreased productivity, right? You think better. I mean, generally it's just plain physiology, right? Better circulation, better
everything.
Right? And you start feeling disconnected.
They've done a lot of studies, especially with the younger generations on this disconnected age of, cell phones replace social, aspects of what our lives would have been.
What'd you say? Wait a minute, I had a text.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, but it's true.
It is true.
But
it's so
for
sad.
them, they don't have the context of comparison like we do. You know what I mean?
Oh, and it was interesting. I was watching a show last night, and they were talking about the differences in age group or whatever, and somebody was saying to somebody, you got to start listening to podcasts. It's the new thing. And then the older person looked and said, "You mean radio?"
Yeah.
And then you think, nothing's new under the sun, right?
Yeah.
It's really just
kind of
a version
same,
of radio on demand, right?
I just don't need a license from the FCC.
Exactly. And when all is said and done, and we say this over and over again, and we'll continue to say it more and more as time goes on, are you running your practice or is your practice running you?
Boy, is that true. And I have seen that so many times. Actually, the claim, almost like the claim form episode we did, when the doctor doesn't even know what's on the claim form. Who's running that practice? You're hoping that whatever's spitting out is correct. You're hoping that your staff is doing it right. You're disconnected from wanting to do everything.
We did a chiropractic assistance podcast. Who's really running your practice?
Yeah. But the reality is, docs, if you're just letting it all happen and you don't have a clue, is that because you're burnt out? Is that because you never really wanted to know that? You just hope it happens, kind of hope for the best. Like, there's a lot of different combinations, I think, that occur here. But relative to burnout, you can easily spin out of control your practice because what is the term?
Insane. The inmates are running the asylum.
The inmates are running the asylum, whatever it's called.
Yeah, I had to read his mind there for a minute. So
Yeah. It's such an old term. I really couldn't remember it, but I'm glad it was right on the tip of your tongue.
So he looked at me. Yeah. But it is. It's this sense of being disconnected, and things like podcasts and things that we talk about. They're social media in particular. They're attempts at trying to socialize and to be connected. But it only goes so far. You want to be connected, but yet you're doing everything in your power to not connect personally, one-on-one. So, when I mentioned that article by PubMed, it was written by Sean Williams. It's interesting. This is a person outside our profession who writes an article about the burnout specific to chiropractors.
Did you ask him who his chiropractor was? Because maybe that's where he was getting
that's not who we want to go to, right? Yeah. Okay. But let me read you what he said.
Okay.
It's interesting. He said that the problem is what contributes to the chiropractic burnout is professional identity, number one. And we all know that. I said over and over again, the good news is we're not quacks anymore, but the bad news is we're not quacks anymore. We have to start living up to the reputation of being doctors. And some do and some don't, and some in the public do and some in the public don't accept that. So we do still have a professional identity issue. Said we are isolated in our practices. We are the
Yeah.
ones. We're outside. We have our own office. We have our own staff. A lot of times we have our own billing companies or billing in-house. We do everything and we're disconnected. We're not part of hospitals. We're not part of these large group practices with other people around. We're it. That's it.
You can see that when you look at like graduates of different professions. When you graduate from physical therapy or occupational therapy, the resources to get a job are robust because you're working in all these different settings. Where chiropractic, it's either you are an associate of a small practice or you're out on your own for the most part. That's
Right.
kind of it.
And one chiropractor can treat a lot of patients. So it becomes a whole different thing as time goes on. And the fact that we have such close contact with patients, that adds stress because now we have an interpersonal relationship. I had a call just yesterday from a doctor who basically was having a hard time dismissing the patient that he had already determined was no longer responding to care and wanted to refer him out to a medical doctor. And the patient didn't have any insurance or anything, so couldn't go to a medical doctor. So he didn't want to just release the patient. He kept the patient coming in, even though care at that point was palliative at best and not resolving the issues that he felt needed to be examined medically. And he said, I just feel bad. I can't just throw him out into the wolves. Mm-hmm. So we connect with our patients. We feel like they're part of our lives. And in medicine, that doesn't really happen very often. Half the time, they never even touch. I have another friend who had a foot problem that went to like a half a dozen doctors and never touched his foot.
And in the medical system, they see him once every month, year, 6 months. I mean, chiropractic, you're seeing, especially a new patient, a lot more.
Absolutely.
You get to know them pretty quick, I would think.
Yeah. We have a strong reliance on that interpersonal connection with the patients, but also our skill levels. A lot of the techniques are physical. They're demanding. Not all of them. And as we get older, we may have to progress into less physical techniques. And that may be by choice or may be a necessity. But the bottom line is it's very difficult to treat a number of people a day, and you're putting out your body, you're putting your body on the line as a result of it. Side posture. How many shoulders friends have bad shoulders because they do side posture or because their back is bad because they're leaning over people all day long? It's an occupational hazard very often. So this is an outsider identifying these things as stress levels for us. This one I found very interesting. Job autonomy and lack of supervisor support is the way the article worded it, which basically is saying we're chief cook and bottle washer, and we don't have anybody outside.
You're marooned. I mean, you're in a silo in a sense,
right?
And so when you're alone for a long time, in essence, it can really beat you up.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why Tools of Practice is so successful is because we interact with our clients,
right.
and we become part of their practice also. But it gives them that supervisory support to go to somebody who knows something and is able to guide them. They were saying in the article how critical that is, because if you're in a hospital and you have a problem, you just go across the hall to a colleague and you can confer with the colleague. Or maybe there's a head of the department that will take the case over because it's so complicated or whatever. But you have that supervisory support so that you never feel like you're marooned, like you just said.
What's funny is that bleeds down to the chiropractic assistant too, because in a lot of these practices, they're running the whole show with the doctor, or they're just focused on front desk, and you got one that's financial. But they themselves don't have, unless they're working with Tools of Practice, they don't have those resources or support. So then they go to the doctor who, if he or she doesn't know where to go, feels even more stressed because they don't have the answers that their staff is looking for. And then you have these individual silos going on inside your office. I love when we get, our dedicated email gets used, and a CA or a doctor is asking a question, and I'm answering the question, and I usually write at the end, "Hope this helps." And I love when I get back, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I've been trying to find this answer," or I didn't realize my staff didn't know where to go, whatever. Like you get this nice response, and I'm saying to myself, when I saw this bullet point, I said, this really resonates because they don't know what they don't know sometimes. And that in itself, when you start to realize that you don't know, can be a little bit daunting.
Yeah. I'll even go one step further. So the CA doesn't know. They go to the doctor and the doctor has a question. And the problem is without that supervisory support, they usually go to a colleague who is probably as clueless as they are when it comes to that particular subject, but they're going to say something, and the two of them are going to kind of decide on what to do, which very often is incorrect.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. And then there are other issues. So it's a very, very important aspect of not feeling burnout to be connected, as we said earlier, to be part of a group, but also to feel as if there is a place you can go for that overwatch, for that particular supervisory support that this article identified. So now we're there. What do we do? It's what we do. It's what we chose to do. It's what we love to do. So what do we do? How do we keep this from being something that turns into a situation that we go, I really just don't want to do this anymore? And I can't tell you, unfortunately, I hear that way too many times. Yeah. I just don't want to do this anymore. And that, in my mind, that goes back to a lot of what we said earlier, that the rewards no longer are enough, meaning we're not getting paid enough to put up with all the crap we have to put up with to do what we do on a daily basis. But still, there are other reasons, and we still have to deal with it because most people are in practice or can't leave practice at the time that they're expressing this burnout.
Right. So, one piece of advice that I heard along the way, which I thought was pretty good, and it was about a particular characteristic of burnout, was they were, kind of sick of the documentation aspect of it. They were sick of the insurance aspect of it. And one piece of advice I thought was pretty good was when you're first going in to your office, see a few patients and just see the patients. Be with that patient and then document. Don't sit there and try to document at that moment. Yes, it's good to document as concurrently as you can, but,
it could be right after, right? Yeah. Or minutes after.
Give yourself time with the patient directly, even if you have to leave a little room in your schedule. Be with that patient.
Right.
Remember why you're a chiropractor. It's not to be head nose in a laptop.
Reconnect with your practice and your patients so that it becomes rewarding again. You can set your limits. Unfortunately in chiropractic, sometimes I hear these people preaching about more and more. And, sometimes more can just be less.
Quality over quantity, as they say.
That's what we're saying here. You can decide what your limits are and based on what your capabilities are and what your desires are, find that sweet spot where what you're doing is enough to make you happy and, of course, sustain you and all of that. But don't put the pressure on yourself to always think that you want to do more. I remember at one point, at time in practice, I did the reverse. Said, what is it that I want to do? Then I worked backwards and figured out how many that meant as far as patient visits and how many new patients a week that meant and blah, 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 and translated it all. And I was so much happier not worrying about this week wasn't better than last week. What's going wrong here? Oh my God, I had a slow day, and all that pressure that you put on yourself. So one of the biggest things you can do for yourself is to set limits and set realistic limits. You don't go say, oh, geez, I want to see 1,000 patients today. That's just not going to work, and nor should it. But they should be realistic. Take the pressure off yourself. You do not have to be the answer to everybody for everything. We talked about this in other podcasts, to find who you are and what you have to offer and what your ideal patient is. And that's what you go for. And if they don't fit, it's okay to send them away. Send them to somebody else. I use as an example in the past, I didn't do kinesiology in my office. And every now and then I'd get a patient who wanted someone who did kinesiology. I had 2 friends who were great at kinesiology. And I said, I will never satisfy you. Go to them. I don't have to be for everybody.
You sent away a patient? Oh my gosh.
I did. Also they say it's important to take care of yourself, and we know that. But, chiropractors, if you walked into a room of chiropractors of past, the room would look like the healthiest bunch of individuals you would see. Unfortunately, now I say that if you were to get that same look that I remember in the younger days, you'd have to go into a room of physical therapists.
Right. I'm going to lean into self-care a little bit because as a massage therapist, I know in that profession, in my profession, it is a very deprived area. There's not a ton of self-care for most. And I say chiropractic's the same way. It's like, do you get adjusted regularly?
My God.
Are you following the care plan you give your patients?
Oh, my God. If you ask a chiropractor when the last time they've been adjusted, if it's not less than what they recommend to their patients, it just amazes me.
It has to be it's a cliche to say it has to be a priority, but it has to be a priority because if you're not,
walk the walk.
All the cliches, right?
Yeah,
you got to fill your cup up before you can fill somebody else's. You got to put on your oxygen mask before you put on the kids. Like all of these cliches are cliches for a good reason.
But you're putting out the energy that you don't even believe in what you're saying.
Yeah, right.
How can you believe in the power of the adjustment if you're not getting adjusted?
Right. And that self-care, to me, the foundation of it is getting adjusted. And from there, it blossoms into, are you having fun in your life? Are you taking a moment to enjoy life? It's okay to take a day off. It's okay to take an hour off.
Wait, whoa, back up. Yeah. What do you mean take a day off?
Yeah.
What am I going to do?
Yeah. And not do documentation because you didn't do it during the day.
Well, wait a minute. No, you're just blowing my mind now. You're talking about having fun? Oh, my God.
Do you think that, and maybe it's generational, I'm going to ask you, do you think that doctors remember why they got in the profession?
Oh, and I hate sounding like the old fuddy-duddy, and I know it comes across that way sometimes, but having been in this profession for 43 years, I have to say there definitely are differences. And the difference comes from the passion for the profession. Because certainly what we have accomplished as a profession and our status, way, way beyond what it was when I started. Certainly the technology has advanced to such a degree that we can offer patients more, way beyond when I started. But what I offered that doesn't seem to be the same today is this undying belief in the adjustment. So you have to find your passion. Hopefully, as a chiropractor, it's in chiropractic. But you have to find your passion, and patients have to feel that passion. So I think the problem isn't that docs today aren't as passionate. I think they're not as cleanly defined in their mind what that passion is.
It sparked a memory in me. I don't know if I told you this story. Maybe I did. That I was going to be a chiropractor.
I didn't know that. No.
I was accepted into Palmer out in Davenport.
Oh my God. It's the first time I'm hearing it, people, and I've known him since 2010.
Yeah. I worked with Dan Rita, chiropractor on the Keep, and he encouraged me, like all good Palmer grads at the time, to go. And I said, well, I'm doing pretty good in the office. I'm learning the billing. Like, this must be the way I want to go. I'm trying to think. I don't think I was massaging at the time, so it wasn't that. And so I ended up going to the local community college because I had some sciences I had to get done because I had a history degree that wasn't helpful per se. And so I got this acceptance letter and I was like, ready to go. Like literally was like, okay, I'm just going to finish up these prereqs and then
off I go
to the middle of the country. So what changed? I was working with the trade association at the time, and I got an award. I was a young guy. I got something about, for the profession, something the chiropractic trade association recognized me because I was doing the billing classes for them, and they were probably making good money, and maybe that's why I got recognized. But
well, aside from the fact that you knew what you were talking
yeah,
about.
Yeah. But and the doctor who was in charge of the awards was a friend. I don't think that's why I got the award. Maybe it was, but
no, that's why the award was just a little bigger than the others. Yeah.
And I remember it was presented at one of their conventions back when those were bigger, and I wasn't there because I didn't know I was getting the award. So I didn't come till the next day, and then they gave it to me at like a lunch break or something. So then I got this award, and I was thinking about it, and I'm like, I'm serving the profession, I think, in a better way than just coming out of school in debt and just being another chiropractor. Now, would I have just been another chiropractor? I don't know, but I was feeling like I was actually filling a niche and enjoying the niche I was filling. And that to me was fulfilling. So at that point I said, well, why am I going to chiropractic school? I was encouraged to go to school, but was it really what I wanted to do when I'm doing so well in what I was doing? And I decided it wasn't going to be for me.
Yeah.
So I pivoted.
Yeah. And I can say that we've all benefited because of that decision, truthfully.
So sweet. But clearly I had in my mind.
We have plenty of chiropractors. We don't have a lot of use.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But maybe that's why I became a massage therapist, because there was a clinical aspect of healing and care that I clearly enjoy too.
It serves us well, because a clinician's a clinician and patients are patients. And all of the issues that we discuss are the same. In many ways, you can look at it and say, hey, look, a massage therapist had identity crisis just like chiropractors do or did and still do. So, yes.
It just made me think especially if you're younger.
I didn't know that at all.
Yeah. Well, save it for the podcast.
You would have made a good chiropractor.
Yeah, thanks. But, the funny thing is so if there was a doctor who was listening to this and he's like, well, I became a chiropractor so I could be a doctor and make money. Like,
find something else.
Yeah.
Please.
Or see if you can find some passion for the profession you're in.
In my day, honestly, and I said this before, that people who are in class were there because of something. Chiropractic saved their life in some way or another, or they were a legacy, like a son or a daughter. So, and in my case, if you go back to who and what we are, I talk about my motorcycle accident and what chiropractic meant to me for the rest of my life that would have gone in a totally different direction without chiropractic. So certainly my passion for what chiropractic can do for someone's life and how it can literally change the course of their life, it is real and personal, as opposed to someone who might have thought about going into chiropractic school because it looked like a good job. It looks like I might like it. I'm helping people, but they don't have that personal passion that comes from something intimate as far as your reason why chiropractic is important to you. So to go back to the question way back, it really is different in that I think the level of commitment to the profession is different. Everybody has a commitment to their own business and what they do and how they do it and their patients, and they do it all well, for sure. But I think we have a diminished level of commitment as a profession, and that's not serving us well right now.
And it's funny because I think it's so true that if you follow your passion, the money will follow behind you.
Exactly.
It really is. It's hard to see that when you're in debt and you're struggling to make a living. But it really does become one of those things where
it's real.
It's so true.
It's real.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I was just trying to think. I was going to say something, but I don't know if I should. But
go ahead. Come on. Go ahead. Come on, people. Let's bring them out. Come on.
Right.
Hey, let's go. Bring them out. Yeah, bring them up on stage. Go ahead.
Yeah, right.
Picture me being Tony Robbins shoving a microphone in your mouth.
You ever hear about Tony Robbins and his whole backstory at all?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have, but
he doesn't like being called a motivational speaker because that's not who and what he is, which is, it's funny. But talk about a groundbreaking guy and what he did to achieve the fame and success that he has. And here's a guy who I think from his story, he chased his passion, and look at the kind of payout he got.
I mean, how many books and tapes does he have out there with the word passion in it?
Yeah.
You know?
He's got quite a few.
It's him. It's him.
Yeah.
You gotta love the guy. And certainly there are very few people out there that feel the way he feels about what he does. And that's what we're talking about here.
You know what? It made me think of something else too. Like, there's some people that I call them like workshop junkies. And they go to a lot of seminars and conventions, conferences, and they absorb a lot of information and they get kind of jazzed. But then they get to the office on Monday morning and literally nothing changes.
Nothing changes.
They change nothing. They may feel good, and that buzz will wear off over the weeks and or whatever. But I've said to some of these people that I know, I'm like, well, why do you keep going, spending all this money when you come back and you're jazzed for a little bit, but you really don't change anything? You're not actually doing what the conferences and recommendations are.
You know, in the real world, they always say you have to do the work. And if you're feeling the burnout, if you're feeling anything like what we talked about, you have to do the work. It's not going to go away. More of the same is not going to make it better. And sooner or later, it wins. Sooner or later, the burnout wins.
I remember what I was going to say. So when I used to teach at a massage school, I started teaching like some of their business courses. And the first thing I would say is, raise your hand if you want weekends off. Raise your hands if you want holidays off. Raise your hands if you don't want to work evenings. And the people that kept their hands up, I said, you're in the wrong profession. You need to leave. And the school owner would get so pissed off. But I'm like, I'm saving you a lot of trouble, because if you want to win in this profession and be successful, unless you have a particular niche, you're not going to do well, because when do people want massages? All the times you want off are the times that...
And it's going to be your business, so you're back to being the island again.
Right. I think there's a lot of similarity between massage and chiropractic in that sense too, where there is a lot of silos. I think massage therapists, I don't know. I remember my first massage therapy board meeting. I came into it and everyone was hugging each other, and it was like, this touchy-feely love fest. And I'm like, this is not what I'm used to on other boards that I've or seen. Like,
I've seen,
even chiropractic, they're friendly, but it wasn't quite like the massage therapist.
Oh, no.
But I think massage therapy attracts a lot of part-timers because it's a part-time profession and very easily fits into a part-time profession for a lot of people. But whenever I get the opportunity, when I'm on the board and let's say we have to interview somebody in an executive session because we're reviewing their character, not their competency, right? So there's something on their background, criminal
that
usually.
Raises the red flag.
Yeah, raises the red flag, and you got to look at it and ask them the questions. I always ask them, why did you become a massage therapist? Because I'm judging not so much their character, a little bit of that, but I'm curious, how are they going to...
Who are you?
Yeah, how are they going to do? Yeah. And most of the time, if they're spending the trouble and the time and the energy and the mental angst to come in front of a board and air out their dirty laundry of their life, which is what they have to do basically, most of them, they get attracted to the massage because it helped them in their recovery, helped them and pivot in their life. And I see chiropractic, like with your motorcycle accident and your headaches, and how it changed the trajectory of what could have been a very disabling life to you.
It was until I got adjusted. The 4 years prior to me getting adjusted, it was disabling. And I started thinking it was me. And I started thinking there was something wrong with me because I was having such concentration issues because of intense head pain. And certainly the result of that was, during my undergrad years was difficult, trying to exist in pain. So you understand when patients came in and said, this is just ruining my life. You got to help me.
Right.
And you do. And it's satisfying and it's rewarding that way. And I think sometimes the interpersonal relationship with your patients today is different than the interpersonal relationships that I had with my patients. So we're asking you to look at that, bring it back. Our members' moment is to recognize that you're not alone. not alone if you interact with your patients in a way that gives you something as well as giving them something. And you're not alone if we can just start enhancing the profession more and start interacting with each other. It's one of the goals of Tools of Practice is to get us to be this community of people that work together and have a full understanding of what they're supposed to be doing and how they're supposed to be doing it, so you can go out into your life and have a great practice, make a great living, and have a lot of fun doing it.
And I would say, if you're a doctor out there, you really don't know. You don't know. I'm feeling spent, burnt out, stressed, but I really don't. I can't remember. I really don't know why I'm in this. Make some incremental changes. Just something different. Stop doing your online CEUs and go to a conference. Go to a seminar.
Meet somebody.
Talk to your peers. Because if they're there, you can connect with them.
Right.
Go to a BNI. Go to your local society meeting or something. Just do something different that will connect you with other professionals and colleagues if you're not doing that.
I've had an endless number of seminars that I went to, not because of the information in the seminar, but just to connect with people.
Yeah.
And inevitably you come home from what you got from the connection and made changes in your practice more than what you actually learned in the seminar. And we have to start connecting to each other outside of Team and Zoom and social medias and things like that, and get back to this interpersonal relationship that works so well for us in practice. It works between us and our patients, so now we need to have a little bit more of that between us and the outside.
You could end up finding a mentor and a friend. I once had a massage therapist who he clearly looked up to me. It was cute. He, I would say wanted to be like me, but I kind of got. He actually said that to me.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
So he wanted me to be his mentor, and I said to him, "I'm happy to do that, but realize that you have to change." He never stuck with it.
Never stuck with it. Because people look at things and realize that they think they want to do something for reasons that are different than what the reality of that might be. And I'll give you one quick thought for those of you who have never done the Highlands Battery Ability Test.
Me to do that, yeah.
It's called the Highlands Battery Ability Test.
Write this down. How do you spell that?
Highlands and Battery
H-Y or H-I?
H-I-G-H. Highlands Battery Ability Test. This is a test that you can do online, and what it does is it measures your innate capabilities, and it doesn't matter whether you're 10 years old or 80, it's going to tell you the same things. And it's going to measure your innate capabilities, and then it's going to link them to job descriptions. And you'd be surprised how many times what you should be doing is not what you are doing. Certainly if I had any children that were going to college, they would not be allowed to go to college until they did this test, so that you would know exactly what their major should be. And that's what we have here a lot of times, is maybe people are doing things they don't want to. And as a result of it, it creates this unmeasurable type of stress in their life that leads to the burnout we're talking about. So going back to what Paul said earlier, make your changes. We'll leave you with this closing thought by Tony Robbins.
Oh, good.
How's that for timely? We didn't even know that was, the same, right? But Tony Robbins says, by changing nothing, nothing changes.
Boy, is that true.
Is that true?
Well, on that note, thank you again for listening to All Things Chiropractic. I'm Paul Andrews.
And Dr. Mark Davini. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to All Things Chiropractic. We'd love to hear from you. Visit allthingschiropractic.com with comments, episode ideas, or questions. Or connect with us on Facebook and Instagram at All Things Chiropractic Podcast. Be sure to join Dr. Mark Davini and Paul Andrews next time for another episode of All Things Chiropractic.